Hey guys, welcome back to our video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that happened earlier today that kind of was crazy, and I just think it's an interesting story, so I hope you guys enjoy. So this morning I was driving myself to school when I got into a little bit of a fender bender, I guess you could call it. Yeah, so in order for me to fully give this story justice, we need to start at the day before. Now, I know it can be really cringe when people start before the actual story that they mentioned, but like, let me tell you, this is a good story, so just bear with me. Yesterday, I was walking to work downtown where I was promptly almost hit by a car. I can explain. So, there I am stopped at a crosswalk, waiting for the shining green man to tell me to go. After about a minute, the light turned red and I was granted the right of passage. I began crossing the street with about 16 seconds left on the walk light when I looked beside me and I see a car barreling down the street. Now, obviously I start walking faster because I wasn't going to be in the intersection when this guy was coming towards me. And so I'm a little nervous. I'm walking faster. I'm thinking the car's going to stop. And they don't. They speed up. So I hurry to the corner with about 12 seconds left on the walk light as the car barrels through the intersection, going through the red light without a care in the world. So immediately I'm experiencing some of the most adrenaline I've ever had in my life. And it's great. Like, this is a great feeling. Obviously, I was pretty shocked, so I just stare at the red light, then back to where the car came from, and repeat it a few times. At this point, I noticed the one guy who stopped on the other side is laughing at my reaction, and then the drivers who caught up from when the car came from, I also saw it. There was like a lady with a hand over her mouth, and I was just like, oh my god, okay, this just happened. So I look back and forth confused a few more times, and the other guy's laughing, one of the other ladies is laughing, and I just walk away. I shrug. I literally look at the red light, shrug, and proceed to walk away as the light turns green. And I mean, okay, it was a near miss, but I'm still kicking, okay? I tell my family what happened, and we joke around that I'd run out for my good luck for the week. I wasn't wrong. Alright, fast forward to this morning. I get ready for school, hop in the truck. I'm cruising along, listening to music. Traffic isn't really that bad as it usually is, and I'm making good time. Actually, I remember I was pretty impressed. I was like, wow, everyone's driving really great this morning. Everyone seems mostly happy. No one's like being dicks. No one's cutting each other off. Like, this is a great morning to drive. The music was good, courtesy of my amazing playlist. And yeah, no, I was having a good time. And that's when it happened. I pull up to the intersection to perform a left-hand turn on the green light and wait as cars still proceed to go through. Obviously, if you're turning left on a green light and there's cars coming, you're at fault if you get into a collision. Makes sense. Basic driving rule. Eventually, the light turns yellow and everyone on the other side stops trying to make my turn. Well, everyone except one. Someone speeds up in the closest lane and blows right through the yellow light. I press on the brakes to avoid being hit. Fortunately for me, I was paying attention. We're all good. And now I can make my turn safely just as the light turns red, safely making it out of the intersection in time before the other light turns green and people start coming from my side. False. About 2 or 3 seconds after the car went through the yellow light, keep in mind he probably should have stopped. Everyone else had stopped. He had plenty of time to stop. He went through, whatever. The car behind him also decided to speed up and go through as I made my turn. Now keep in mind, the light had just turned red. Like I said, the first guy shouldn't have gone through, and this guy decided to follow him. I went to go make my turn, and he didn't slow down or swerve. Instead, he just plowed right into me. So imagine me in this moment. Someone goes right through the yellow before my turn. Keep in mind, everyone had stopped, and someone else follows. I see them barreling towards me. God, I'm using that word a lot. And once again, I see they're not slowing down as the car behind them, the main witness, honks for them to stop. There's about a second or two where I see the car coming towards me, and I realize, oh shit, this is actually gonna happen. The truck is shook by the car hitting it, and my stuff just goes flying. I had my backpack and binder in the passenger seat, and my water bottle flew out onto the floor. My change drawer was all over the ground. My coffee mug bounced out of the cup holder, off my knee, and onto the floor. And there was also a lot of dust just kicked up, but I mean, it settled pretty quick, so it was interesting, and I'll keep thinking about that now, because the dust was actually really cool. I know it's such a weird thing to say, but I mean, now, keeping my foot on the brake, I turn down the radio, which is connected to my phone's Bluetooth, and I put the truck in park, and I hop out, pretty much shaking. Now, real quick, I know this is a lot of random, bizarre details to include, but I'm just trying to incorporate as much detail as possibly, especially as it's still fresh in my mind, just so I can have like a cool story that I can remember this by. And yeah, I just figured to include all the little details, you know, it'd be fun. Like for example, the song playing was Deep End by Gray. It's a good song. I recommend you listen to it. It's a 10 out of 10 song to get sideswiped to. As I said, I turn the music down, put the truck in park, and get out. So immediately I walk out and walk over to his car. I wave to him to show him I'm okay, and I walk over to check if he's okay and start the insurance process. And here's where the trouble starts. He shakes his head and turns away from me. He's still sitting in his car. He looks at me, shakes my head, shakes my head. He shakes his head and just ignores me. So, okay, whatever. I mean, both of our cars were pretty much totaled, so it's not like he was going to go anywhere. So I just started taking photos for insurance purposes, especially as it looked like, you know, he was considering driving off and maybe not have been so honest. I mean, maybe he was worried about how I was going to act since it was his fault. But I mean, I wasn't angry at all. I even waved, but whatever. As I walk around the cars to start taking photos, I hear, "Hey, are you guys okay?" from one of the ladies who watched the accident happen. I know that wasn't very feminine. I'm trying my best, okay? You'll have to bear with me. So when she asks if I'm okay, I realize I start to shake. And I'm really shaking. The initial shock is worn off, and I'm shaking. But whatever, I'm still taking photos because I know it needs to be done. And whatever, I just kind of focused on just making sure this is all helped with. Kind of like remembering my driver's training. This is my first accident. I was kind of confused. I tell her I think I'm okay, and the guy still isn't getting out of his car. So she goes up to his passenger window and starts just yelling at him, just like, "Get out of your car!" And so basically he proceeds to get out. He's uninjured, but he was pretty upset with himself over what happened. And at this point the initial shock had worn off, and I was shaking pretty bad. I started to dial 911 to get an officer since it was a fairly rough accident and he didn't seem to cooperate with like kind of everyone. So the witness offered to phone for me since I was shaking. I said sure, and she took my phone to call the police, while the other witness, who was right behind the other driver who saw it all happen, came over to us and asked me if I was okay. And I started to laugh nervously. I was like, yeah, but I'm still shaking pretty bad. She told me she saw it all go down, and she knew it wasn't my fault since he blew a red light while I was turning, and she said she would give her statement to the police when it was time, and she assured me that I wasn't at fault and that it was all going to be okay. Shout out to her, she literally came in clutch. At this point, I was handed my phone back from the other witness, and I began taking photos and getting the driver's information and the witness's numbers. The other driver was pretty upset, which I understand. I mean, both of our cars were totaled. He was moving today, it was kind of rough. But I mean, he was acting like a child. He started lightly kicking the side of his car before he calmed down, and he was like, he wasn't talking to anyone. He was just, it was embarrassing, honestly. It was a shame. He didn't handle it with grace at all, but whatever. I texted my mom, and after about 20 minutes, my family showed up, and 5 minutes after that, the police came and began to lay out cones before taking our statements. The one police officer took me aside and had me confirm which vehicle I drove and my retelling of the incident, which was particularly nerve-wracking since it was my first time ever doing something like that. I've never had to give a statement before. Then the police officer got the other driver's statement and the witness's statement, who confirmed with the police officer that the incident was not my fault. Basically, the driver saw the one car go through, so he decided he would also speed up and go through, not seeing the red light colliding with my vehicle. He said he wasn't really paying attention, he couldn't really see it, so he just kind of went because he saw the other guy go. I mean, not a great excuse, whatever. I mean, I'm not really salty. I'm not upset about it. It's just, if everyone else was stopped, I don't know why he thought to go, but I mean, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. Like I said, I wasn't upset, especially since I did everything that a good, like, reasonable driver would do to avoid an accident in the first place. There's nothing I couldn't have done differently. I mean, I wasn't going to stay in the middle of the intersection on a red light and get sideswiped by a different guy. I mean, I was alert. I had both hands on the wheel. I wasn't distracted by anything, and I had the right of way in that instance. It simply just boils down to people not paying sufficient attention while operating a motorized vehicle. Something funny did happen while waiting for the police to arrive. Someone drove past filming the accident and posted on Snapchat. Now, this was interesting because kids at school started coming up to me asking if I was okay. Kids I didn't even know. So like, I always thought my 15 minutes of fame would be like from YouTube blowing up or something and kids at my school finding out. But I mean, I guess this works too. Luckily, this whole ordeal ended up being really fortunate overall. No one was injured, and I walked away with just a sore neck and permanent fear of driving. I mean, seriously, neither of us had any passengers and no pedestrians around, so definitely a very lucky collision for all the damages that were sustained. Left-hand turns can be particularly bad for insurance and fault. However, I luckily had two witnesses on my side. And the one lady who saw everything happen and stayed, was the kindest lady I've ever met, and I'm just so fortunate she stayed and helped work things out, especially since she was running late to work. But crazy enough, her boss drove past and pulled over and came and helped us and talked to us to make sure everything was all right. So overall, an incredible group of people to be in shock with. Also, the police took about 20 to 25 minutes to arrive, and the tow truck only took about 2. So from now on, I'll be calling tow trucks instead of 911. That's, for legal reasons, that's a joke. But let's get serious for a moment. Even though everyone walked away from this accident relatively unscathed, it's still a harsh reminder to all of us involved. Many people who get into collisions are unable to walk away from them. So I'm considering myself to be very lucky at this time. And I mean, even though I take no fault in this accident, it still highlights just how cautious you need to be both on and off the road. This accident could have simply been avoided if the other drivers paid sufficient attention, but luckily no one was hurt, and that's all that matters. Please remember to drive safely and stay alert to all hazards on the road. Everyone wants to get home safely. Vehicles are replaceable. People are not. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. Have a great day.